Wah, wah. Welcome to the St. Louis Cardinals funeral officiated by Josh and Andrew. We'll talk about all the reasons why we believe the St. Louis Cardinals are 2024 season is officially dead, and probably this era of Cardinals baseball is about to have its own funeral at the end of the season as well. What is the implications of another potential lost season in St. Louis? Is there even a slither of hope for something to change and for them to come back? We'll talk about this and more on this episode, Deal in the Cards. Man, Andrew, I didn't think about it till we hit live, but I should have found some funeral music to play during this, and just I just have the Sarah McLachlan "In the Arms of an Angel" in my head. I'm just this team is so is there any chance? Are they're dead, right, Andrew?
I mean, I got a front row seat this weekend.
Yeah, you're
And
at all three games.
Yeah, it didn't look great. Yeah, I mean, the schedule only gets tougher from here, right? You have the Brewers, the Padres, the Twins, the Yankees, and the Brewers again, Mariners in some order. I don't think I got the order right, but yeah, you got a lot of really good playoff contending teams for the next month, and it's going to be really hard for them to even go 500 during that stretch, right? And I don't think that they're giving up, like Ollie said after game one, which was pretty bad loss. The bullpen just couldn't quite hold it together.
Yeah.
He said they can't afford to give up. And yeah, I mean, they're why would you give up right now? It's not like you can trade your expiring assets. I guess you can put them on waivers, but that's just a money saving move. If the DeWitts really want to do that, I think people would just stop going to the games, which is fine. But yeah, I mean, not too much to be encouraged by. Two very weak starting pitchers in game one and game two of the series. And then you saw Clayton Kershaw yesterday, and you couldn't score at all. And that was great, right? The offense still hasn't fixed itself. That's what we've been saying all year. I don't think the offense will fix itself. I think Paul Goldschmidt probably nearing the drop-off point, where he's probably just never going to be old Paul Goldschmidt again. Nolan Arenado, he's younger, but kind of seeing the same things out of him. And the young bats, if they're going to figure it out, it's probably going to be next year, right? Jordan Walker doesn't seem like he's going to get the run to figure it out. Lars Nootbaar, Nolan Gorman, they're kind of platoon guys now. Brendan Donovan's been fine, but he's not what we expected. So, if you want those guys to figure it out, they're going to have to do it next year. And I mean, unless the pitching somehow is just amazing for the rest of the season and doesn't give up another run and they win 20 games in a row, then yeah, sure, they have a chance. But aside from that, I think the team is the hope is gone.
Yeah.
Fortunate. How it happened this week.
Yeah, for sure. And to your point, there's always even if we're calling the team dead, there's always a chance teams can do crazy stuff like that. No one thought the 2000.
The White Sox are dead.
Yeah, the White Sox are dead. They have no chance. But they're again, because of how bad the National League is, Cardinals aren't out of it. But they need to go on a run, but they also need help from other teams. And I don't see both of those things happening. I don't see the Cardinals going on a run, but I also don't see, because they at this point, the Padres have pretty much locked up a spot. The Diamondbacks seem like they're going to lock up a spot. So you basically need the Braves to continue to fall off. You need the teams ahead of you, like the Reds and the Mets, to not be better than you, or you need the Brewers to fall off. And then again, you need to also go on a sustained pace because you're 2 games below 500 now. You got to make up ground. And I just don't see them doing that. 2011, Tom Reether just put this in the chat too, 2011, 2006, 2021. There have been multiple examples of Cardinal teams who literally this time of the year went on some crazy run to make the playoffs. With that being said, I'm just going to be I'm being honest that is always a possibility. That being said, you go back to 2011. Well, that team had Albert Pujols. That team had Yadier Molina. That team had Adam Wainwright. I know this team has Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado, but they're not playing anywhere like that. It's not like Albert Pujols was terrible those years and then just turned it on. They had a really good team, and then the supporting pieces came together. I think a lot has to change for this team to turn around, and I don't see it, right? I don't, and it sucks. I think Paul Goldschmidt's a better player than this. I think Nolan Arenado's a better player than this. I think the young guys are better than this, but it's kind of a little too late. Again, there is a chance, but I'm not going to bank on it, right? We kind of already had a funeral for this team back in May, and it feels like that again. It feels like they're going to have to do some crazy, but they had the benefit of time back then. Even in May, it was well, theoretically they could change it, but there were 10 games back then, all Central. I don't know. I think they're 5 games back of the wild card. It wasn't crazy, but they just looked dead. this team looks dead again, but also now they just don't have a lot of runway left. They're running out of time. Something that I think something we should talk about is like this Dodger series. In theory, it went better than the Red series, right? Like the Reds, you just got curb stomped by. Like it wasn't even close. Pitching was bad. You couldn't hit in Great America's Small Park either. Like it was not a good time. Dodgers, like you could have won all 3 games. Like game 1, you had that lead and Sonny Gray blew it. Obviously you won game 2, and it was 2-1 on the Sunday. Like that's also another winnable game against Clayton Kershaw. And so like that's encouraging, but we're well past the point of moral victories with this Cardinal team at this point. Like I'm not faulting Ollie. Like I'm not saying it's bad that he's being like, well, it looks better. We got to keep trying and encouraged by performance. Like, sure, that's all true. But at this point, it doesn't like it matters, but it really doesn't compare to the wins and losses. Like in April, you could be like, hey, I like how we played tonight. May, I like how we played today. When you're a couple games up and you're having a little bit of a bad stretch, you can take those moral victories. When you've dug yourself this hole again, you can't really afford it. And it's just frustrating because it feels like a circular conversation in many ways, but we go back. It's like, what was our main concern coming into the season? It was not the stinking offense. It was, can this pitching staff actually be competitive enough to win? And lately it has not been. But majority of the season, this pitching staff has done everything you could have wanted, or not could everything could have wanted. It's been to like average expectations. Like keeps you in games. The bullpen will hold a lead. The rotation will not get you blown out of the game. Your offense just has to perform. Honestly, Andrew, I'm pretty confident in saying, I don't know if you feel this way too. If the Cardinals had a top 10 offense in baseball this year, or around like 11th, something like that, I think this team's first in the NL Central right now.
Oh, I think if you brought back last year's offense, it's the best in
or at least the first half offense. Yeah, like
we're not gonna throw out like Juniel Quiricuto, whoever. Like that's not how this works. Like
I think people forget like this offense was top 8 or top 9 in almost every major statistical category up until the trade deadline, when the Cardinals waved the white flag on the season. And then also Brendan Donovan got put in the IL for the rest of the year. And again, I think some people think he's overrated, but Brendan Donovan was insane during that summer. He was one of the main reasons the offense caught fire. Then the second half happened. There were people, which is fair. Like I don't know how high you were on the offense. I know Sandy and I were. I think you were high on it, but I think people had legitimate questions about it. And I thought like I kind of dismissed those back then, but looking back, it was fair. But none of us, nobody, I don't care who you are, no one thought this team would be historically bad. Like not just like kind of historically bad, like almost like they're close to one of the 10 worst teams in baseball history with runners in scoring position since 1924, which is the last 100 years. That's basically baseball history. Like, did anyone look at this lineup and was like, I think they're going to be one of the 10 worst teams out of 1,400 plus teams that have played baseball since 1924 with runners in scoring position? And that stat, like that area of the game, more than any other area of the game, affects run production, right? Like, who cares it matters what your average is with no runners on base, but if this team is even like, we're talking about historically bad. So if they're like historically average, they would have not so many more wins, but that swings a lot of different games, right? Like how many games have they lost by 1 or 2 runs? And you go look at their stats of running scoring position. It's like, oh, they're 1 for 19 today. Well, 19's a little high, but like 1 for 10. It's like, if they were 2 for 10 that game, they might have won. If they were 3 for 10 that game, they might have won. How many times could they have swung it this year? It's just frustrating. It's so frustrating to look at a team that has consistently underperformed, and it's the area of the team that should have been the most dependable. And it wasn't. And it hasn't been. And so here we are. Major changes should be coming in St. Louis. I believe major changes are coming in St. Louis. Andrew, are you confident those changes will happen if they miss the playoffs?
I mean, I think the writing's been kind of on the wall like since May, and I think Mo's comments in May were a little bit indicative that he was planning on maybe stepping down. At Blogger Day, kind of seemed like that he just wasn't like as confident that he would be back next year, and like not because like he'd be fired or anything. I just think he would be like stepping down because of like the team performance or just needing a new voice. And I think I don't know, like. I think if Chaim Bloom is open to taking the role, I think it would be good to just have him in there. But like right now, I'm not convinced that he would. Because I feel
really?
like, Yeah, I just don't know if like I haven't heard a lot about that like coming from like I think a lot of people are like kind of speculating, kind of jumping the gun, being like, yeah, Chaim Bloom will be here next year. But I think we're taking that a little bit for granted right now. Um, I don't know. Maybe I'm just not as like plugged in with the organization. Like I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but like I haven't heard anything like yeah, all right. Like we can hold Kareem's water and he'll come up come on with us every week. But like um I don't know if Chaim Bloom is necessarily like as like invested in this organization, like kind of seeing the way it goes. Like I don't know if I would want to take over this organization, especially if there's like other offers out there. He seems like a very well respected throughout baseball um, mind and like a really smart guy. So I don't know if the Cardinals are necessarily the organization he'd want to take over, but I don't know. That's what I would be worried about right now. And then what I would be worried about is they hire an internal guy like Mike Gersh or like somebody like that. That would not help the problem at all.
Yeah.
Like, that would just make it. That might even make it worse. Like I don't know.
Yeah, they cannot sell like even, and this is not to say because I mean, frankly, most of us don't know. Like we'd like to say we know how good of a job Michael Gersh or Randy Flores do at their jobs, but like we don't. Like most of us are very unaware of their job performance. But we just have the results to play off of, right? I think it's very clear to your point that even if they're qualified, even if even if in a like if this team had been coming off of 3 or 4 straight successful seasons, you could make the argument that it's like, oh yeah, like Michael Gersh, Randy Flores, like step in line, that's great. You can't sell the fan base on that. I don't think anyone's going to accept Michael Gersh or Randy Flores, even if you like them. And I don't have anything against them. I think they're great baseball minds, and I think Mozeliak's a great baseball mind. I just think it's gone stale, and he's made a lot. You're about to hit the button. I know it. He's made a lot of poor choices the last few years. It's clearly deteriorated, so it's time to change. And I don't necessarily think that means you have to clean house. Like I think Randy Flores has done a really good job as their scouting director and assistant GM. I think Michael Gersh has gotten some good feedback as well. Cornelio, just saw your message on there, so we'll jump in. We'll jump in with that here in a moment too. But I think you're right. It has to be an outside voice. Chaim Bloom is an outside voice, even though he has come in this past year. The advantage of Mozeliak and the DeWitts both wanting him here is that they brought in like typically like so let's say Mo stepped away in October, and then they finally hired an outside voice. It's like, well, that outside voice hasn't been looking at the organization, right? Like they maybe know it from afar, but like they didn't get their hands on it. It takes time to get used to things. It gets time to kind of evaluate things, make changes. Bloom's basically done like a pre-homework assignment. He's done summer school with this team. It's like when your teacher assigns you some summer assignments to get ahead in class. He got it. And so if he jumps in the fall, it's like in October, this offseason, it's like, okay, he already knows what he wants to do. And not just like selfishly, like, because this is how he does things. He's gotten a chance to evaluate everything. So he is outside, his outside eyes. I'm pretty confident he's going to take it because we haven't heard anything the opposite direction yet. It's been mainly like, to your point, I'm not for sure it's gonna happen, but we haven't heard anything from anyone that it's like, yeah, Bloom's hesitant about this and we're not really sure. Like there's always the caveat if he wants it, if he takes it. But again, it seems like, I mean, like we had Jeff Jones on, Bertie Miklasz said the same thing. Like Bloom's been studying this organization for a year now, or going to be a year when by the time he gets hired, if he does, for the intention of potentially taking it over, not just as like a fun homework side project. It could turn into that. He might end up being like, hey, I studied it, I'm out. But we can talk more about, maybe we get to this question from Nelio first, and then we can get more into Chaim Bloom as a potential fit. But I do actually think he would really enjoy this market and that this kind of organization, it fits like his perfect wheelhouse. But again, does he have good relationship with ownership? Is this where he wants to be? Who knows? But so let's get to super chat from Nelio. Again, really appreciate this. And obviously you're super supportive of the show, so we appreciate you. But then again, if you're listening now and you want to get us to answer some stuff live, again, we try to keep up with the chat, but super chats are a way to support the show. And also it's a way for us to integrate it into the show as well. So he asked, sorry for the super question before, which I don't remember you asking a dumb one. So there was not no stupid question from you, but he said, I have another one. Can Jordan Walker be moved back to third base if Nato gets moved this offseason? I have thoughts, but Andrew, what's your thoughts on the potential of Jordan Walker going back to third base?
I think if they do that, they would have just like put Jordan Walker into potential like bust status, right? Like that's not I don't think that's going to happen. Like, he's played the outfield pretty well this season, I think. And just moving him back to another position when he really just should be working on fixing his swing and getting better at like pitch recognition, not chasing the low breaking pitches, and that's what he really should be focusing on instead of converting back to third base, which he hasn't played in like over 2 seasons now, I think.
Yeah.
And just doesn't make a lot of sense. I think they have other options if they move Arenado. Donovan could play some third, so JC could maybe move in over there. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's a big if they move Arenado. I personally am like interested in it. If there's another team that's willing to take on all that salary, even if you don't want to give anything in return, like that'd be great. I just don't know if that's really on the table anymore. And I don't know if the Cardinals would really be open to doing that because they love their Hall of Famers. And like, I don't know if the DeWitts would sign off on that. It would be really funny if they had Chaim Bloom trade another Hall of Famer. I just
would be a little different this time.
That would happen. Yeah. Maybe trade him to the Dodgers for Mookie Betts. You know?
Oh, I'm open to that.
Yeah, that would be great.
Let Bloom cook. I'm the same way. I think it would be just, I get the sentiment, so I'm not like saying like that's a foolish thing to ask, but I just think he's already had enough kind of like being tugged and pulled different directions that I don't think moving him to another, like going back to third base is a good idea. Like you said, Andrew, it's been basically 2 years since he's played it, and he's never played at the big league level. So why would we expect him to be ready for that? He also wasn't like some like gifted third baseman that everyone's like, oh, this guy's gonna be a great defensive third baseman. It's like that's his position. He was not really known for the glove as much. I also think to your point, he's been better as an outfielder. He's developing as that. I don't think I know for a fact it's nowhere near as bad as it was last year defensively. He's gotten better, and so I think he'll continue to get better. How good can he be out defensively in the outfield remains to be seen. I also feel this way about first base as well. I don't see a reason to move him there. I think sometimes we oversimplify how easy it is to play first base. And I think even though I'm supportive of Paul Goldschmidt being gone next year, I think people are going to be a little bit, they're going to start to notice kind of like you noticed with Yachty being gone, how great it is to have a great defensive catcher, that you're going to start to notice what it means to have not a great defensive first baseman. Like remember the Jose Martinez years and like Matt Adams and these guys are filling in at first base and they aren't Pujols at first base and they're not what Goldschmidt is now. I think I'm not saying Alec Burleson can't be a good first baseman. We haven't really seen a lot of it yet. So I'm not going to necessarily bank on that. So it's a good question. I think it's one that they're going to weigh, like where should people play long-term? But I think it's pretty safe to say Jordan Walker is going to be an outfielder for a while. But before we keep going, I want to thank one of our sponsors of this podcast, and it's 314 Sports Cards and Collectibles. And if you watch us before, you know about 314 Sports Cards. They're located at 9640 Olive Boulevard in Olivet, open 10 to 5 Monday through Friday and 9 to 4 on Saturdays. And you can get awesome single player cards like that, the two-way Mason Wing card that Andrew already snagged. You can get packs, you can get box sets, all that kind of stuff. They do other sports cards as well, other collectibles and Pokemon cards. So if you're interested in buying, selling, or trading, go check them out on 9640 Olive Boulevard in Olivet. You can also check out their Instagram. They're active over there. I've mentioned it a few times. I need to pull my card sets. They're literally over there, but I don't want to walk to go get them in this. But I've got all these old cards that I want to take by them and let them look at them and see like what are they worth and what should I be keeping, selling, trading, all that. So, and Andrew, have you added to the two-way collection since then? Like, what's your two-way collection looking like?
I haven't gotten anything. I should get some more Ohtani cards. I sat out there for 6 hours collectively this weekend trying to get Shohei Ohtani to pop out of the dugout, but it was hot. I got Clayton Kershaw's autograph, which is pretty cool.
That's legit. Yeah, Kershaw's a good one.
So yeah, that was pretty cool. But no two-way players, unfortunately. Brandon Crawford was signing autographs in front of the Cardinals dugout. I just wasn't there. So
he could have gotten two. Well, yeah, Crawford's maybe a Giants Hall of Famer, but that's about it. But a legit baseball Hall of Famer. So, hey, real quick, as a good transition, and we'll talk more about Chaim Bloom and because there's some good offseason chatter. People are asking, man, there's a lot of good questions in here. So we'll try to get to them. If you want to prioritize it, again, super chats are a great way to do that, but we'll try to hit on some of it. Like I see Carlson talk. I see Quinn Matthews. I see Goldschmidt talk. There's a lot of stuff. So if you want to prioritize it, let us know by super chat. Otherwise, we'll try to get to it as we go through. But Jackie Moon, I think this is a great question. Andrew, give us a story from the weekend Dodgers wise. You can talk about the Clayton Kershaw autograph, but
my story from the weekend is that I saw 5 home runs hit by two-way players. 2 of them from Shohei Ohtani and 3 of them from Mason Wynn and Alec Burleson. So that was fun.
There you go. Yeah. What was your reaction when Ohtani went deep for the first time?
I mean, I was trying to catch the ball. It's a big milestone ball and maybe get a chance to meet him, but it went to the bullpen right in front of me. It was very sad.
Tough. Yeah. I realized that someone I work with back home was at the game Saturday right near you, and I didn't realize it till after. So it could have been a blast from the past. But anyways, so that was off topic. But so yeah, let's talk more. So I mean, let me give my take on why I think Bloom. I've said it before, but we'll just reiterate it. Like I think he's a really good fit. Just his profile as a baseball person, and Andrew, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. He's a player development guy. The thing he kind of grew in prominence for was the reason why the Red Sox went after him from the Rays, is that he developed the Rays Way handbook, which was basically a player development guide of how do we maximize every single player to play to the best of their potential? How do we customize player development to each player? And like you notice with the Tampa Bay Rays, like they find what you do well and they help you do it even better and maximize it. They don't make you someone into who you're not. Do I think it's a coincidence that a Quinn Matthews is popped off this year when Chaim Bloom joins the organization? I don't. I think it's something that he's really good at. I think he's been having his eyes on it. I think he wants to transform it, and it's something that the Cardinals have not done for a while. I think you look at his time in Boston, there were mistakes made. There were things that he has to own, but I think the bigger rocks that people get frustrated with him by were ownership things. Now, you have to kind of manage that in a market, but I actually think he would play really well with a DeWitt ownership group versus John Henry and Fenway Sports Group, because they like if you just look at the way the Red Sox have been run over the last 15 years, they consistently change directions on a dime. They go into these hard rebuilds or they cut payroll, and then they spend more money than anyone else in free agency. They build up the payroll, and then they all over the place. Like Dave Dombrowski won them World Series, and a year later was fired for Chaim Bloom. Like, and Dave Dombrowski is like potentially like, I mean, if you go around, like Andrew Friedman and him are probably the 2 highest regarded baseball executives right now. He's with the Phillies. He's doing great. And they couldn't handle one off season, like where they were basically 500. They brought in Bloom. They told him, hey, cut our payroll, build up our dead farm system, which was dead last in all of baseball. Hey, and also find a way to be competitive all at the same time. Oh, and also on top of it, your first move is going to be to trade our future Hall of Famer for nothing. So like that was not a good situation to jump into. I think with Bloom, the thing that excites me, like as watching from the outside, is we've seen him help maximize talent in a market like Tampa Bay that cannot spend money, right? Like I know people get mad at the Cardinals for not spending, but the Cardinals spend like over $100 million more than the Rays do on payroll. Like it's a substantial difference. So I think you take him into a market like St. Louis that's not necessarily going to do the Boston crazy stuff, but are going to be consistent, have a plan. They're going to be patient. They're going to spend money, but they're not going to spend it maybe like the Red Sox were. But again, when Bloom came in, they didn't want to spend money. I think he would like. It's kind of like when Walt Jocketty was gone, and they kind of went the Jeff Loonhow, John Mozeliak side of things. I think they'll see Bloom in that way, where it's like, hey, we'll help empower this guy to have a vision for a long-term success with this organization. We're developing young talent. We're willing to make some bigger moves. We're not going to make a lot of them. And I think that fits Bloom's profile more than like the all over the place market of Boston. And then he'll have more resources than what Tampa gave him. So does the profile Bloom, like, do you feel like he's a good fit, Andrew, baseball wise for a St. Louis, or are you worried about whether it's the Boston struggles or the profile being a guy that can do more with less? Like, are you worried about any of that?
Yeah, I mean, the Rays just traded a reliever for an outfielder with 161 OPS plus, so I feel like that seems like a good model to follow, like, but yeah,
wonder who that is.
Yeah, I know, right? Surely is not Dylan Carlson, but
oh gosh.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I feel like I just am afraid. Like some people have mentioned it that like maybe the DeWitts would be like, oh, Chaim can do more with less, so give him less to work with. That would be really frustrating. And I don't know. I feel like the DeWitts used to like the comments they made when they fired Mike Matheny were just like so much more like passionate about winning than they are now. So I don't know what's going on back behind the scenes, but I feel like they could pivot to that kind of thing, which is a little bit scary. But I don't know. Like, do I prefer Bloom with less money or Mo with more money? I'm not sure. Um, like it could be it could go both ways. I feel like I think Bloom could probably even be a little better. But yeah, I think the profile matches. I think he's going to help the pitching a lot. Like you found a lot of promising guys. Like I don't think they've all panned out. Like Nick Robertson, obviously it didn't pan out, but like Kittredge has been really good. O'Brien has a lot of promise. I don't know why he's not back up with the team right now. I mean, I guess it'd be really funny if they DFA'd Sean Armstrong, but I don't think that's going to happen because they gave up a really good player to get him. But other guys in the organization that we're excited about, just help the pitching development. I feel like that's the main problem right now. I feel like the young position player core is fine. I don't know if it's as exciting as it was like 2 years ago. Definitely not. Maybe guys like Weatherholt have added to that, but honestly, with the way they've handled Walker, they might platoon Weatherholt against righties, and like, I don't know.
Oh, jeez. Could you imagine?
We'll see, right? I was so surprised when they gave Walker the at-bat against the righty reliever yesterday. He didn't get a hit. Has he gotten a hit since he's been called up? I don't think he has.
Yeah, he has.
Has he?
Yeah, I think he's been batting actually a lot better against righties. I don't think he has a hit against a lefty. I think because
I don't think he's gotten a single hit since he's been called up, but I might.
He has, because he pinch hit one game and then kept hitting, and he got hit off the righty, but he pinch hit to come in against the lefty in the Red Series. So, anyways, yeah, so one of the things I do think that matters is I'm curious. Like I think there's a pretty good chance the DeWitt shrink payroll after this year, which is just not going to go over well. But I don't think they're going to go crazy with it either. And I think there's a way you can do it that doesn't feel like you're like tanking either, because like say they don't re-sign Paul Goldschmidt, it's like even if they don't bring in a replacement, it's like we all know that he hasn't been good. So you're like saving that money. And like if they decline the option on a Lance Lynn and they trade to Steven Matz and stuff, like they save money in those ways. It's not like it's hurting your team. Like they're not going to gut the team to do it. And I also don't think they're going to turn into some $100 million payroll team. They could, but I kind of doubt they're going to try and sell people on that. And I like the idea of Chaim trying to do like make better signings, because I think to Jackie's point, you can spend all the money in the world, but if you spend it poorly, it doesn't matter. Like you look at the Mets last year, and the Mets like this year still have the highest payroll in baseball, and they're like a borderline playoff team, maybe. I think it comes down to like, instead of signing the Brett Cecils and the Mike Leakes and the Steven Matzes and all those types of guys, like go get the Nathan Eovaldi before he pops off with the Rangers. Go and get Shota, right? Go and get yeah, I know. Go and get Seth Lugo. Go get Michael Walker. Like go make the better signing than what you have made. And so I'm encouraged by Sonny Gray and Wilson Contreras. I know Sonny Gray hasn't looked good this year, but at least his numbers haven't been good. I think it looks a lot better than people give him credit for. But Wilson Contreras has been good.
Played well yesterday. You're like Shohei's going to homer off you. I mean, that was a really bad pitch, but like he's going to homer off you regardless. It doesn't really matter.
For sure,
one more run after that, but like I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, I do think like, and something I just wrote about it for Redbird Rants today, so it's up there. There's more fleshed out thoughts on it, but I think like an Andre Palante, it's like, I think a bold and smart move would be to rely on Andre Palante as one of your starters next year, because you're paying that guy $1 to $2 million to be a back end of the rotation starter. Now they can't, if they typecast him as like a middle or top front of the rotation starter, that's a huge mistake. But if they're like, hey, instead of bringing back Lance Lynn and Steven Matz, we're going to save $25 million and we're going to use Andre Palante. I think that's great, because it's like use that $25 million elsewhere, like on a number 2 starter. Yeah, like go, or even like even if they don't do that, like Evaldi's a free agent, Max Scherzer's a free agent, Michael Walker is a free agent. Like there's guys that raise your ceiling more. And I think even if people didn't like and totally agree with, and I'm not saying people needed to, the Kyle Gibson and Lance Lynn signings this past offseason, part of the reason they did that is because they did not trust their AAA depth. But if they can trust Palante, McGreevy, Graceffo, potentially Quinn Matthews, which we can talk about at some point, that allows you to spend more money elsewhere. The problem is the Cardinals have been so bad at pitching development that they literally didn't even have a guy they could trust to be a fifth starter at any point. So they had to consistently go out and sign these veterans to $10+ million deals. And then you're spending more money on your rotation than most other teams, but getting less production from it. Having some young talent in there will be helpful. So another question I saw thrown in here that I think is, I'll just throw out some names, but probably won't go in depth on any of them. But if it's not a Chaim Bloom this offseason, I mean, there's a chance it's Randy Flores or Michael Gersh. I don't think that'd be wise, though. A couple names. I have a story that I did back in May on Redbird Rants that talks about some names, but Ben Hansen, who's kind of like the technology guru for the New York Mets, has been really big at their player development. Kyle Bodie, who's the co-founded Driveline, and then Preston Manningly, who's the Don Manningly's son, and he's also the assistant GM with the Philadelphia Phillies right now. Those are some like rising baseball names. Jeremy Resor from the Blue Jays. I think there's a couple of names out there, but again, like those names haven't been connected to the Cardinals. I'm just throwing out names out there that other people in baseball are like, hey, that person could be a Pobo soon. And it's like maybe the Cardinals go to poach them. And then we can address this super chat and then get into some other stuff real quick. So Cornelio again, so you guys feel the fan base is totally checked out by now, or if hypothetically we sweep Milwaukee, quite a few get excited again? Is that simple? What do you think, Andrew?
I mean, from someone who was there this past weekend, like half the stadium was wearing Dodger blue. Definitely not me. I would never do that. But yeah, right. But like, I think the attendance was down even for an exciting weekend against a really good team. But yeah, I would never. Like, I definitely was not on the Fox broadcast. I wasn't on SNLA. I probably was on, like, definitely not. No, that's not me. But yeah, I don't think. I mean, sweeping Milwaukee and then like sweeping the Padres. Is that who we play next? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah, sure. I'll get excited if we're like, what does that put us, like 5 games above 500 if we win 7 in a row? But like that's a big if, right? Like I don't know. Let's take a look at the pitching matchups for this weekend or for this week against Milwaukee. I don't think we face anyone. Who's this? Yeah, I don't think we face anyone that's like particularly exciting. Oh, Freddie Peralta on Thursday, who we tend to hit well, but like I could see it. Maybe like a 10% chance we sweep Milwaukee. And then, like, I don't know. I just think this upcoming stretch is so difficult that, like, are fans really going to get excited about a team that's, like, 1 game over 500 after this week and, like, 3 games back of a playoff spot? I mean, maybe. But, like, I feel like this fan base has grown tired of that. And I don't know. I feel like we need a big-time miracle to get back into contention, which has happened before. And I feel like the front office is kind of banking on it to happen again. But like, that's not how baseball works. Like, that's not what you're supposed to do.
Unless you're the Cardinals. Just kidding.
Yeah. No, right. Like, that's only the Cardinals do that because they won a World Series in a year where they were like 10 games out of a playoff spot in September. And then they won 17 games in a row.
Yeah.
And like, you just got lucky twice. Like, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, it feels like they used all their devil's magic already.
It's like in 2011, they had Albert Pujols and Lance Berkman and Matt Holliday and Yadier Molina, like all in the middle of their primes. And this year we have Paul Goldschmidt, who is hitting like 160 with runners in scoring position and has like 1 extra base hit the entire year. So
yeah. Also, people need to go back and look at how good, like Lance Berkman was popped off in the playoffs, but like I don't think people remember how freaking good Lance Berkman was that regular season. Like, man, it is a different team what they've got going on right now. So
the team that we're trying to chase down is kind of like that 2011 Cardinals team, like the Braves.
That's a good point.
Like, I don't think the Braves are going anywhere. So, I mean, Austin Riley's out for 6 to 8 weeks with a broken hand. So maybe not.
But again, to your point, they have Matt Olson, they have an Ozzie Albies, they have Sean Murphy, Ozuna. Like, they've got these names that could also do stuff. So I do think like if they sweep the Brewers, I think it raises an eyebrow from people. But like, I think like May last year, it took multiple weeks. It took really into June before we were like, oh, like, are the Cardinals actually going to do this? Like, I think it's going to take a little bit of time. Like, I don't think one series flips the script. You can put together a couple good series in a row.
That's fun.
Yeah. So like if you take out like I mean if they win consecutive series against I think the progression is Milwaukee, San Diego, Minnesota, I think.
I think it's
What?
Minnesota first, and then San Diego,
Okay.
then New York.
So like if they win the next 3
and
going
then
into
Milwaukee again.
I could see if you win those next 3 going into the New York series that there's some momentum, and then if they do well, like, over that whole stretch, when they come back to face, because are they on the road in that August series against Milwaukee, or are they home?
Yeah, they're on the road. By the way, Josh,
Oh,
if you're
man.
not down here this week and, like, apologize to the Brewers, then I think the season's actually just cooked. I don't think it matters either way.
I'm sending them my apologies from afar. Also, hey, we're not predicting they'd be sweeping the Brewers. Some people are, like, saying we're on drugs. We're saying, like, if they did something like that,
No,
sure, maybe
you're wrong.
fans would be like, "No, maybe this team could do something." But, like, again, we started off by saying we think this team's dead, so we don't see that happening.
Cody says Miles Michaelis versus Aaron Judge, but Miles Michaelis did strike out Shohei Ohtani and Mookie Betts.
That's
So
true. That's the thing with Michaelis is, like, it feels like he'll, like, strike out Ohtani, but then he'll give a home run to Kevin Kiermaier. Like, so, like, I know it's Kittredge, but, like, so I could see, like, Ohtani or Michaelis, like, slices and dices Juan Soto and Aaron Judge and then gives up a, like, bunch of home runs like Kyle Hizataki or whatever, their catcher, and, like,
he's
Anthony
on the Padres,
Rizzo.
but maybe.
Oh, he's he moved now? Jose Trevino or, like,
I think he was part of the Soto trade.
oh, Jazz Chisholm's gonna do something against them.
Josh
Oh
Chisholm tore his
gosh.
UCL.
What, he did?
Yeah.
Is he still playing?
I don't know. He's on the IL, but, like, he's got
Oh, I'm an idiot.
DH or, like, get Tommy John or something.
Oh boy, what a tough move for the Yankees there. It's like Brendan Donovan last year. Because that's exactly what happened to him. So, yeah. So we're not banking on any of that happening. But if you're asking what would make fans interested again, I think you gotta have some kind of run like that. But I do think like if they're legitimately in the race, not just like 4 or 5 games back, but like if they're like 1 game back, if they're tied, if they're in the wild card, I think down the stretch fans would go to games because I mean that's a playoff push. And would it be the same as like typically? No, but I do think you see more fan engagement. Like I don't see like if the Cardinals made the playoffs, I don't think people are not going to go because they don't believe in the team. I think you'd still pretty much fill the stadium, but maybe I'm wrong on that. I don't know. But if you're wanting to go to some games down the stretch, you want to potentially go to a playoff game because it probably won't be the Cardinals. You want to watch the Brewers in the playoffs or, well, not the White Sox. If you want to go watch Caleb Williams for the Bears, who's like actually awesome as a Bears fan, they have a quarterback. You can go to a Bears game and enjoy watching the offense. You want to go to a concert, you can do all of that on SeatGeek. And if you use our code NewtNews on SeatGeek, you can get $20 off your first purchase of $50 or more. And so if you want to go in on tickets with a friend, you want to do something like that, you want to go to a concert with a friend, you just want to get better tickets and get them cheaper, again, use that code NewtNews. Andrew, did you use the code NewtNews on your tickets?
I did. Do you think Brandon Crawford can sing? Because maybe they'll have a farewell concert for him at the end of the season.
Adam Wainwright comes back to do it with them. Oh gosh, yeah. Well, if you guys think
or maybe
there's a
Matt
Brandon
Carpenter.
oh
Matt
yeah,
Carpenter get a speech? Does he get a farewell weekend?
I think I could see Carp getting a farewell one, especially if they're not in it, like kind of like to bring fans to the ballpark. But yeah, not. I don't think Brandon Crawford's gonna get one.
News to save $20 on his tickets.
Not even gonna. Oh man. I'm getting these Keenan Allen looks washed. Yeah, okay, it is the preseason. If I'm being honest, I don't think relievers, veterans like him are really going to try.
No, I know that the preseason that Paul Goldschmidt didn't hit a home run all spring training, so that means that he's washed.
That's true. Baseball, yeah. Anyways, I don't know what to do with preseasons, but I will say Caleb Williams is legit. So if you want to go to a Bears game, you want to go to a Cardinals game, you want to go to a concert, use the code NewtNews to get $20 off your next purchase.
Remember the spring training where it took us like 18 games to hit a home run, and we're like, no, the offense is fine. Spring training doesn't matter. The offense will be good.
Who said that?
I think you did, but I think I did too.
Yeah, I've got a lot of things I gotta like own up to after this year, but it's tough. Gonna be honest. I wish I'm not even kidding. I kind of wish the pitching's what's imploded, so people could have been like, I told you so, and I could have been like, yeah, I was wrong. That's tough. Like this offense, I'm like, I don't even know how to like I know I'm wrong, but like, how did this happen? Like, it's wild. So, anyways, yeah. So I was wrong on all of that. Let's talk a little bit 2025 though, because I think one encouraging thing, and maybe if there's any other questions, we can try to get to them. But this might be maybe our last one for this, because we do need to conserve some topics, because this might be a tough stretch to talk about baseball. So we might need to save some ideas for future episodes at this rate. But the 2025 rotation at this point, how do you feel about Andre Palante? Do you think he's earned a rotation spot at this point, or do you think he should be viewed as more of like a depth option going into 2025?
Yeah, I think he's earned a rotation spot, but he's going to lose it to Lance Lynn once he comes back next week. So,
well, I'm talking about 2025.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, sure. I don't see why not. Like, I feel like some of the peripherals maybe aren't there. Maybe some of like hard hit rates and like maybe a little bit of good luck for Palante, but I feel like, I mean, as your fifth starter, like they're going to try to sell me on him as like a third starter, like Dakota Hudson. But
Gosh.
I don't think that works. But if he's your like last option out of the rotation, I think that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Maybe put Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson on waivers in a couple weeks, and then let McGreevy get a chance to start. You know, like who knows?
Yeah, I do think if they end up being out of it, you should either, if you're planning on keeping them, do the ghost IL thing. But if you are not bringing them back, you could do waivers with Gibson or Lynn. You should be giving McGreevy, Graceffo, Palante all the chances down the stretch if they're looking toward 2025. There are some encouraging peripherals with Palante, though. He's like 98th percentile on ground ball percentage. He's over 60% right now, so that's really good. Barrel percentage, again, he's 95th percentile. He's 80th percentile on average exit velocity he's allowed. Hard hit percentage, he's a little below average, though. Fastball velo is a little up this year, so he's pumping about 95 consistently. Expected ERA is really good. His FIP is basically right in line with his ERA too. So like I think there's encouraging signs of Palante. I don't think he's a guy that you want as your, I mean, to your point, no, I think you don't want him as a 3-starter, 2-starter, 1-starter, but like 5-starter, definitely. 4-starter with the way he's pitched this summer, yeah. But I don't think it's what you like. You should probably bank him as your 5th best starter. Because I do think the profile, like batted ball luck, is a thing he needs. I think BABIP this year is like 275 off him. So it's like not it's not super lucky, but it's also not unlucky either. It's a little bit more lucky than it is average. And again, you pay him $1 million or $2 next year in first year of arbitration. So I think, or maybe 3 at most. So like that's a lot cheaper than bringing back someone at $10-15 million to do that job. So I do think Palante's earned a spot. And then I do think part of this conversation for me too is like, Andrew, if I didn't trust McGreevy to like potentially be a 10 start guy next year for you, like to fill in, if I didn't think Quinn Matthews was somewhat close, if I didn't think Graceffo could maybe potentially be trusted, then I think you have to kind of have Palante be your 6th starter, because you have to assume someone's gonna get hurt, so you need to have a depth option there. But I don't actually mind Palante being in the rotation, and then you have the depth option of a McGreevy or Graceffo or something like that. Looks like we have some breaking news. Oh, this could change the playoff race a little bit. What's that? Ketel Marte on the IL?
I mean, that changes the MVP race a little bit. So
it does change that, but like, are the Diamondbacks going to fall apart now?
No.
I'm not going to actually try to build any.
We're like 10 games back of them, aren't we, at this point? Like, Diamondbacks are chasing the Dodgers. We're not chasing the Dodgers.
Yeah, it's bad. I do. I would, the chat, I would be super interested to know what your thoughts, and Andrew, because it seems like you're in on Palante in the rotation. I do think, like, again, if it's like Bloom or someone this offseason, like you could, like, so you say if you're committing to Palante, you've already got 4 starters, right? Because Michaelis is going to be one of them. Like, unfortunately, that's going to happen. Sonny Gray, Eric Fetty, Andre Palante. And like, so I look at that group and I'm like, okay, if you decline Gibson, you decline Lynn, that's $22 million you save. You decline, or you trade Steven Matz, which I think he's a tradable contract. You might have to eat some of it. So let's say you only save $9 million. That's $30-ish million that you could spend. And they're not going to spend all that in one place. That's not their personality. But like, could you get Max Scherzer? Could you get Nathan Eovaldi? Could you get
Max Scherzer would not excite people.
But I do think, like, let's compare these rotations. You going to this year with Sonny Gray, Miles Michaelis, Kyle Gibson, Lance Lynn, Steven Matz. Next year, it would be Sonny Gray, Max Scherzer, Eric Fetty, Andre Palante, Miles Michaelis.
Yeah, but like I think Max Scherzer is near the end of his career, and that would not be a very Chaim Bloom move. If that's what we're thinking. That would be a very Mo move.
On like a 1-year deal.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
think
know.
it would be fun, but like I think a lot of people would.
I'm not necessarily saying he's the guy you should do, but like I'm just like throwing out names that. But like Nathan Eovaldi or gosh, I'm blanking on some of the other guys that are gonna be free agents this offseason. There's some
Max Fried.
Corbin Burns, I don't see them doing. I think someone else is gonna outbid. I saw Roki Sasaki might go back again.
Yeah, I know.
Bob Nightingale just said that. But Max Fried, I think, could be someone potentially. Oh, Shane Bieber. Like again, like he's coming off an injury, so that's kind of concerning. But like he was actually really good this year before he went down. So I do think like it opens them up to be a little bit more aggressive. And then also, like, this is the first time in a long time I felt like this. Could Quinn Matthews be like impactful next year? Like, he's 24. So, like, I'm starting to think at some point in 2025, they should not pencil him into the rotation, but they should be ready for him to steal a spot. And I do think that's when Miles Michaelis could be DFA'd or something. Like, guys, I'm seeing some people frustrated by it. I totally understand. I am not. I would totally advocate they should try to get rid of the Miles Michaelis contract. And even if they have the contract, it doesn't mean you need to play him. But they're at least going to start with him. I don't see them unless they can pull off that Dexter Fowler move again, where they basically offloaded him to the Angels and gave away a prospect and ate a lot of the money. Unless they do something with Michaelis like that, I don't see a reason why they do it. So I think he's their fifth starter. But do I think they would commit to him the whole year? No. I think like if Quinn Matthews is ready and dealing, do that ghost IL thing or try to release Michaelis or something at that point. But I think that's like a potential ceiling raiser where I think Quinn Matthews could potentially be like a middle of the rotation type starter for you at some point. And say he takes that Michaelis spot, like that's Sonny Gray. That's, let's say, Eovaldi. Gray, Eovaldi, Matthews, Fetty, Palante. That's a lot better than what they have right now. It really is, in my opinion. I'm worried that they're going to go into the season with Eric Fetty as their number 2, which, again, he pitched like it before he came to St. Louis this year. But I do think you feel a lot better about Eric Fetty as your number 3 than your number 2. So
does any of that matter if the lineup is cooked, though?
That's true. That is a whole other conversation. Maybe that's where we'll go next time, is what we think they should do on Wednesday with the lineup. Also, I'm also understanding there's some people in here like a little bit like pointer production, very wishful thinking there. That is a lot to bake in. So I'm not saying you should bank on the rotation being like that next year. I'm just saying they should be creative to look at things. The Quinn Matthews one, I think, is one you got to be patient on, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. He's a really good pitcher for you next year. Not even a frontline guy, but like a number 3, yeah, potentially. With some swing and miss. But maybe next time, Andrew, we should talk about the lineup and what do we think they need to do this offseason, try and fix it, because you could totally make the argument that they kind of just need to run it back again because the guys' value are low. So like, what do you get for Nolan Gorman, Lars Newbar? You can also make the argument they got to shake it up. So, but yeah, I feel like that we could get a lot of conversation out of that. So let's save that one. Any thoughts going into the Brewers series at all?
I mean, if they don't sweep the series, then I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Like I feel like that's how every series is going to be at this point. Right?
Oh man, yeah. I feel like all of our conversations are turning into like, well, and they got to be better. Like that's all we can say at this point. It's so frustrating. And
Brewers aren't the Dodgers. They have gotten very lucky this year, so maybe we'll.
True. We'll also next time let's talk about Dylan Carlson, because I think that's an offense conversation and really goes into like, do we trust them to fix Lars Newbar? Do we trust them to fix Nolan Gorman? If it's new leadership, that's a whole thing. But again, appreciate you guys tuning in on Monday. I know we usually do live on Sundays, but it just didn't really work out this time. So appreciate you joining us on a Monday afternoon. This is your first time checking us out. Subscribe. We'd love for you to join our channel and all the content we put out here with this. Like the video if you've made it this far already, because it just would be really helpful. It helps the video do well. And again, we just appreciate the support and all that. Comment if you're listening afterward. Comment. Let us know your thoughts, questions, and stuff like that. We'd love to engage with you in the comments and then inform our conversation next time. Hopefully Sandy will be back with us. We'll see. He's on a cruise this time. So we'll see. He's on Alaska time. Any parting thoughts, Andrew?
Yeah, not really. I feel like I don't know. It's a pretty sad time in the Cardinals world right now, but
yeah,
maybe they'll make the playoffs, right? Like, I don't know. Like,
I feel like
I was saying all the things, like I was saying everything wrong at the start of the season, but now I feel like everything I'm saying is right. So now I'm going to say maybe they'll make the playoffs.
That's true. That's true. Oh man. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, Shohei.